Okay, me too. Hello and welcome to
The Power of You.
The Power of You.
That's right.
This is a good one.
Another Thursday. Yeah, I think this one will be better than the last one.
Yeah.
Every week they incrementally get better.
Hey, that's you need to hang with us, guys. Yeah, as you're listening to this, I mean, we're building a monument
That's
to
right.
something. I'm not sure what we're going to be monumentalizing, but
Monument,
that's where we're headed.
Or is it an edifice? I'm not sure.
It could be an edifice.
Could be an edifice.
It could be an edifice. My gosh. So today, what we're looking at is it's not strategy, it's meaning. It's so those of you that are in the midst of trying to scale your organization, scale your businesses, and they're losing sleep over what strategy do I need to be implementing.
Right.
Take a deep breath. Let's take a deep breath. Because we're going to talk about that here a little bit. And hopefully you'll walk away today with a little insight going, okay. It kind of goes in the category of what's important about a vision is not what it is. What's important about a vision is what it does or what it makes possible.
Well said.
So that's kind of what we're looking at with strategy here. Now, there's some nuts and bolts that kind of come into this, but it's about the meaning. It's about the meaning. What does it make possible?
Yeah, love that. And it's love the fact we get to some of these powers of views around, we should probably explain what we're talking about.
Good point. Yeah.
Which is meaning means, we should probably explain that.
Yeah, we'll do a deep dive on it. Now, just for those of you that are joining us newly, a couple of things. And this is our 57th, 58th. I keep losing track here. Power of You. We do one of these a week. They are archived and we'll give you the URL. But you have access to all of them. And the focus of this is all things leadership. That's kind of what Doland and I do is we work with leadership, and we've worked with leadership for over 40 plus years individually, leaders and leadership development and all that kind of stuff. And it's very, in that time, it's become very obvious to us that leadership is not easily quantified or defined. It's got so many nuances to it.
Yeah.
And that's what this Power of You is about, is kind of unbundling what are the different things that are comprising this thing that we call leadership. So that's what we're looking at here.
Yep. And it's all about you, which is not about you. We could have started it with the power of us, I suppose.
Yeah, but that's a little egocentric, and we don't have egos.
That's a really good point. I abandoned that premise a long time ago. So when we start these leaders, we always start with the big four mistakes leaders make, and there's more mistakes that you could make, but we just pick four, and so I'll tackle the first one. We'll do some tag teaming. Leaders treat meaning like motivation. Try to entice instead of inspire. And one of the I love that statement. We assume that when we're motivating, that we're creating meaning. You can actually invert that first little preamble in that sense. If I motivate them, if maybe I need a shorter stick and a bigger carrot. I need the motivation closer rather than saying at the end of the quarter. What if I make it a weekly motivation or a daily motivation? That's still that act of motivation, which is extrinsic, is not moving meaning, which is an internal dynamic.
Yeah, you got to keep coming up with a new carrot.
I've seen that carrot before, and I didn't win it, so I don't care.
I'm not interested in it. Yeah. Interestingly, along that line, money is probably one of the least effective motivators that you can find.
Oh yeah. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, study after study after study after study after study. Reinforces that. Leaders assume that meaning is understood because I told you why this is important. What didn't you understand?
Right.
Listeners interpret. Everybody that is listening to something is interpreting the noise that they're near, yeah, and their ears are decoding.
Yeah.
And it's those interpretations that people actually begin behaving in alignment with. So just because you said something, just because it was written on a PowerPoint slide, that doesn't mean it landed in the way you intended for it to land. And how it landed is going to determine the behavior that people actually run off with.
Right. Which is it hits that next bullet. I love that, Blaine, because then it hooks into leaders confuse meaning with information. And
Yeah.
there's a tendency. I know if with that slide deck, right, that I'm going to create, we've got a 20-minute meeting, so I'm going to bring 60 slides. Right? I've got them clocked, man. I'm going to get through these 60 slides. And by the way, once I hit the meaning, I'm going to give you the other 40 anyway, whether you need them or not.
Yeah.
Which is that I'm going to keep giving you information. I'm going to tell you things. I'm going to tell you things. And that's gets confused. Your teams are going to, it's not the lack of direction that's the problem. It's the lack of the emotional engagement. There is no attachment.
That's the key. And that, which actually moves right into that last bullet point here. Leaders separate meaning from execution. And vision lives at the top of this thing. Yeah. The work is organized around meaning, behavior. Every behavior you will ever observe, every behavior you will actually ever exhibit in yourself is an expression of something that is meaningful. I behave in a way that is consistent with the meaning I've made up about this situation. I either move towards it, I move away from it, I embrace it, I reject it. Those are the major categories, and it's all predicated on meaning. The vision lives at the top, and what's important about vision isn't so much what it is, it's what it makes possible. And it's that possibility that we want to tap into, which connects people emotionally to something that we call a worthy ideal.
Yeah. Yeah. Love that. And it's the reason why we point these out leaders as the big four mistakes leaders make is these are things that we see over and over and over and over and over and over in an organization. I offered them a bonus. I offered them a bonus, right? And I told them what to do. I told them what to do. And not only that when they didn't understand what I told them to do, I created 60 more slides so they had even more information, which should make them be emotionally attached now.
Yep.
And by the way, whether they're connected or not, I'm not going to worry about it because I have now given them meaning.
And you can't give meaning to anybody.
Yeah.
Just gonna drop that little pin in there.
Yes. Okay. Funny how that works out.
Yeah. And with those, kind of concomitant with those mistakes, I mean, you're going to see symptoms in your organization,
right,
where people have not aligned around a meaning that organizes their behavior. And, execution feels off. I mean, everybody seems aligned. I saw their heads nod. I actually heard them say, yep. But when they left the board meeting, when they left the team meeting, the all hands meeting, execution still feels a little bit off.
Yeah.
And again, I go back to all behavior is predicated on the meaning that people have made up about what's going on around them and with them and for them. So execution is off. You got a meaning issue.
Yeah. Which I love because when you talk about that premise, Blaine, it is that, and we talk about this in the work that we do, the fact that when that without meaning, that person will make up their own story.
Oh, absolutely.
And when they make up because we got to have a story. We are a storytelling species. And turn on the radio. It's a 3.5-minute movie told in a story inside of the body of a song. We are a storytelling species, which hooks into number 2, which is why Why do I get different answers to the same question, which is that story? There is each of the people that give you an answer. It's an answer to the story that they've interpreted.
Yeah. Yep. And that's that interpretation dynamic in play, full stop.
All the way. Yeah, yeah.
And number 3 here, symptoms. You've got smart people on your team. You didn't hire dummies. You hired because people, demonstrated that they could actually problem solve. They could sort things out. I mean, all of that kind of stuff. Why are smart people making inconsistent decisions? So you'll see the left hand making a decision in this direction for this, for this outcome in service of that objective. And you'll see the left hand, same objective, but they're making a different decision. And all of a sudden you've got resources being channeled away from or in opposite directions even. And both you and I have seen, teams and organizations actually working in opposition to each other, thinking they were doing the right thing in service of the goal and objective, the KPI that they were all trying to hit.
Right. Yeah. All within the body of the silo that they are living in.
And it's, and this is a great example of siloed meaning making. It's meaningful in my silo. It's meaningful in my domain.
Yeah. It's where they're going to hang out
over there.
Yeah. And it's that full circle. I really like this. We talk about these symptoms because if you think about this in a loop, right? Why does everyone seem aligned, but execution is off? Why am I getting different answers? So my execution is off. I'm going to ask, why is execution off? Well, I'm going to get 6 different answers from 6 different silos. Why are smart people making inconsistent decisions? Now I've got all these silos making decisions on their own. And why does progress stall without me pushing? Which is that last reaction before you get back to the top of that giant ass arc. That's a technical term. Giant ass. It's an image for you people. All that arc all the way around. Why does progress stall without me? And you become the rescuer. Now you're the hero.
Yep. Which is worth examining if this is part of your identity. I'm the leader. I'm the leader. I will save you. I mean, I was doing some work with the company's now defunct years and years ago, Bethlehem Steel. And I remember doing some work out on, literally, blast furnaces, all that kind of stuff. And I was doing work with one of their maintenance areas, and the head of maintenance for this large plant was the client. And from an identity perspective, I said, okay, describe to me how you see yourselves. He says, well, we're firemen. Okay, well, what do you mean by firemen? He says, well, when that whistle blows and the presses stop, and you will see elbows and assholes. We are Johnny on the spot. We will fix this. And what was interesting in that phrasing was they saw themselves as problem solvers, not problem preventers, which was a real interesting meaning distinction. Meaning of maintenance, because these were maintenance people. Mm-hmm. And we were trying to introduce into them a whole maintenance cycle, a preventative maintenance process that ran smack dab into the meaning that they had about who they were. We're firemen. Bigger the fire, the happier we are. So guess what they were creating? Really big fires.
Right. So
not intentionally at all.
Yeah. It's so that's a great example. Such a good example.
It took us a while to, kind of get around that one.
That's an emotional shift because now you're changing how I feel about myself.
Yeah. So, how I describe something determines how I feel about it, which generates behavior. How I describe something is the meaning-making process.
Yeah.
And it's embedded in partly identity. Who am I? Where do I fit? Who are we? Where do we fit? What's important to us?
How do I establish value, self-worth? Oh, yeah. It all is. We are a weird creature.
We are.
We are a weird creature. Anyway, I love this quote. I found it yet again. Peter Drucker, Mr. Drucker, I pulled him dug him up, and this is what he had to say. The meaning of communication is the response you get.
Yep. Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah.
It was a ding, 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 ding. It's like, the meaning of communication is the response you get. Go ahead.
And yeah, and I was going to say Virginia Satir, who's a family therapist,
Right.
just a rock star in that domain. Communication, this is her definition. Communication is simply the ways, plural, the ways we work out common meaning with one another.
Mm-hmm.
So in her work as a psychotherapist with family systems, she would look at the behavior, the response that she was getting and go, okay, what's the meaning that's driving that? And that was, they'd open that box up and it was fascinating work. She
Yeah.
was extraordinary because she didn't work with the behavior. She worked with the underlying meaning structure.
Yeah. Yeah. Leaders, drop a note in the chat if you want. We can't see the chat, by the way, but leave us a
Go ahead.
on the post. If you want to try, go ahead. We can't see it. And we'll send you who Virginia was and how to go see that work. It's fascinating. It is fascinating work. So, and if you're not studying behavioral science, leaders, boy, I tell you, you're missing out.
Yep. So, I mean, all of this.
Go ahead.
Everything that we're doing here is in service of leadership. And we've got a real, and I mean real specific definition of leadership.
Right.
Leadership isn't command and control. It's not I'm the boss, my way or the highway. It's none of that stuff.
No.
Leadership is the activity because it's an activity. It's a high contact sport. It's a relational activity of influencing others in order to co-create coordinated movement in pursuit of a worthy ideal. There's only 4 elements there. Influencing. That's your state of being. Mm-hmm. Are you an invitation or is there a brick wall that people run into? Okay, there's an invitation. We are energetic beings moving energetically through energetic systems. And energy, will move energy. It's always in play.
I'm being invitational right now.
There you go. I can see that. Matter of fact, this the foreman of this maintenance group that I was working with, he was he modeled John Wayne before John Wayne showed up. I mean, it was kind of who he was.
Bro.
I'm open to hearing what you have to say. Yeah, talk to me, damn it.
Yeah, exactly. Tell me.
Influencing others in order to co-create ownership transfers. It's not this is the meaning-making piece of this. Co-creation. It's not just my idea, it's now your idea. How come it's your idea? Well, because now it's meaningful to you. Yeah. We're going to get a 10% reduction or a 10% increase in our revenue in the next quarter. That may be meaningful to you and the board, but I'll tell you, the guy on the forklift that's moving pallets from point A to point B, that doesn't carry water. Yeah. It's not meaningful to him. He doesn't see a bump in his pay. He doesn't see squat.
Yeah. Yeah.
So why would he bust his tail? Yeah.
Yep.
All that kind of stuff here. So coordinated movement. How do we do a dance? For leaders, you have to be moving your organizations into places it's never been. If you're not doing that, your organization is stagnating. And by moving it into places it's never been, you don't have a roadmap. You're just it's going to be a braille sort of a process.
Right.
Yeah, we're going to fail ourselves forward. How do you do the dance when you don't know what the music is and when you really don't know what the actual dance is, but you've got to coordinate and you're going to step on each other's toes. So conflict, the use of conflict becomes a very important piece of this. So how do you make conflict meaningful in a way that people see it as something that is generative? Okay, conflict means an opportunity to be generative, as opposed to meaning things have broken and it's gone off the rails. Two different meanings for the same conflict situation.
Yeah.
What anchors all of this is a worthy ideal, something that is important to me, important to us at the micro level, and important to us at the macro level. So there's 3 levels here: the individual, the team, and the organization.
Yeah.
What makes it meaningful? And it will be different. Those will be different meanings.
Yeah, across all of them. And I love that when we talk about where the ideal, it is beyond we had a conversation this morning, and it is beyond the why.
Yeah.
Where the ideal is not why.
Nope.
And
where the ideal is what matters.
It's easily confused with why. That's why meaning is, that's why it's words have meaning. We're the idealists, not why. Simon Sinek talked, not that the why is not important. The why is important, but we're the idealists, not the why.
Right. So we're going to
So,
jump into this and move quickly through these next sets of slides here. Speaking of 60 slides, we don't have 60,
no.
but we do have some talking points. What meaning actually is, meaning is not inspiration, it's interpretation.
Yeah.
So, I mean, just kind of pin that for yourselves. Meaning is not inspirational in and of itself. It's the interpretation of what's going on that becomes the meaningful piece of that action profile. So, is the interpretation accurate? Is the interpretation aligned with values, with what matters? Those sorts of things come into play here. Meaning is how people make sense of what they're being asked to do. It's a bridge between information and action. For those of you that love PowerPoint slides, that's all information. You hope that that information produces action. That information is not going to produce action. The
No.
bridge will produce action. The
Right.
meaning that people generate around that information and what matters about it. What do I get to have, do, or be that I wouldn't get to have, do, or be if we didn't leverage this information? Meaning determines how people prioritize, decide, move. That's it. So ultimately, at the end of the day, you end up with clarity around what matters, why it matters, and what do I need to do about it? That action cycle. And if meaning isn't clear, people don't stop. They start to guess. And to the point you were making just a little bit ago, it's all interpretation, and people will make up all kinds of shit, and they'll run to the woodpile based on that meaning. And
Yeah.
they actually won't stop to clarify. They'll just go, "Hey, I'm off to the races."
No, clarification is a sign of weakness.
Yeah.
If I'm going to come back and ask you, so help me understand, you're gonna. There's that thought in their head. I thought that you knew what I said. That's what you're expecting as the result. So yeah. So rather than ask for clarification, they guess.
Yeah. And you've seen heads nodding all the time in these meetings. Yep. Yeah, you got it? Yeah, I got it. Okay. What did you get? Yeah, tell me.
Exactly.
Yeah, tell me what you got here.
Oh yeah, the precursor, the doorway to the buts. But anyway, so the reframe. So reframe is just we talk about this each time, and I'll blast through this fairly quickly as well. But the reframe, it's an opportunity. So how do you shift how you think about it? Right? Leaders think meaning is something they communicate. Meaning is not what you communicate. When you think about it, and reality, that individual's reality is the expression of meaning. And it's how they construct it. It's how that individual constructs that expression of meaning. You don't deliver meaning. You have to shape how it's formed. As part of that shaping, there's confirmation. There's things that we can tell you what to do, or help you with that. But then every gap in clarity gets filled with an assumption, usually unvetted. Assumptions, that's why assumptions are called assumptions. Generally, an assumption is unvetted. Remember on the previous slide, they guess? That's an assumption. And they step off. And then consistent meaning creates a high quality decision. One of the things about meaning, as you're shaping meaning, is the consistency in the manner in which you do that. And that consistency creates confidence. And that confidence in turn increases the quality of the decisions that are being made.
Yep.
There's processes. As a matter of fact, there's an 8-step power of you that Blaine and I did, way at the beginning, on how to make a decision. Right? This is in there, but the consistent meaning creates that high quality decision. Inconsistent meaning, leaders, as you think about this, creates friction. Friction's important when used correctly, but friction in the terms of rework and escalation is detrimental. That is not an appropriate use of friction. You must use friction as a leader, but that's not how you use it. And then meaning is the operating layer behind every result you're getting. It's really, I love that last sentence, because when meaning is expressed, and then it's constructed in that individual's mind in alignment with that expression, that operating layer automatically, you mentioned the word scale, automatically creates velocity as you're moving forward in scale and changes the dynamic of your result. If you are looking for a 5x scale, that velocity will get you to a 10x scale. And it's built around that operating layer of meaning to get that result.
So, there's a mindset function that comes into play here, and I'm going to just drop this in here. This is an example of a banner. That's not the one I wanted, so I want to actually put this one in there. There we go.
I like
That
it.
was an
I
example
thought
of a
maybe
banner.
we could have vamped on that for a while. They would have never known.
Yeah. So just exactly. Small commercial announcement. We're about 3/4 of the way through on this right now. These are complex topics. They really
Right.
are. I mean, these are not
Yeah.
just kind of, oh, I heard that. Now I know know what it is. Give us a call. I mean, but Dolan and I both love having conversations about this. He and I both are up to making a difference, having an impact, and particularly with small and mid-sized organizations. So if that's what you're involved with, give us a call. Ping us. And say, I'd like to have a chat about this, and we'll set something up and just have a chat. We're not intending to sell you anything at all. It's just kind of like, hey, let's explore this because we want to see how you can succeed. And we got all kinds of resources for that. So
There you go.
the mindset that comes into play here, and mindset is crucial. When we think about behavior, 92% study after study, and actually points to this, 92% of all behavior is generated by information that is not conscious in people's awareness. It's in their subconscious. And that's what we call mindset. It's the underlying belief systems, the underlying paradigms, the value structure, going all the way back to family of origin dynamics. I mean, all kinds of stuff here that is subliminal. It's just, I'm not aware of it. Why'd you do that? I don't know. Why'd you do that? I don't know. I knew better, but I did it. I mean, that sort of stuff. If the results are inconsistent, the meaning is inconsistent.
Yeah.
So if you're getting what you want over here, but you're not getting it over there, people don't genuinely, they don't try to sabotage things.
Right.
But if they are emotionally disengaged from what they're doing, emotional disengagement is a symptom of lack of meaning, clarified personal meaning. You're going to see inconsistent results. It's going to be, how'd we get there? Just because.
Right.
People don't execute based off of what you say. They execute based off what they understand. People will never, as a leader, people will never give you what you ask for. They give you what they perceive you will settle for.
Yep.
They will give you what they perceive you'll settle for. And that's all around meaning. They made up something in their mind about the story of you got in the room before you did. And they went, I know what he or she is going to settle for. Now they may not think that out loud, but it's in the back of their minds. Just kind of, oh, this too shall pass. He or she went off to charm school. They did a four-day offsite with a consultant, and they came back and they were all hot and bothered. This is going to pass. I mean, that's the conversation that goes off in the mind. People don't like to change. Even if the change makes business sense, they don't like to change. Change is uncomfortable. It's unfamiliar. And what they understand is what they're familiar with. That's what they understand.
Yeah.
So part of the interpretation here is you got to be able to play with that. If interpretation varies, clarity is missing and meaning is scattered. It's as simple as that. So your mindset is organizing itself around noticing these discrepancies. Where does it off a little bit? And rather than going, somebody screwed up, it's kind of you come back to yourself going, okay, what do I need to do to be sure that the appropriate meaning's in place here? Your job is to reduce guessing, not try to get more activity. Your job is to reduce the guessing quotient.
Yes.
Meaning is the system. And literally, that's a system. Meaning making is a system. It's the system behind decision quality. So when you get your head wrapped around this from a mindset perspective, you begin paying attention to different things. And the primary thing you start paying attention to is, where are we missing alignment in the meaning profile? that people are operating with.
Yeah. Love
That's
that.
what we're working with.
Love that. So important. So important. And then governing behaviors. So when you, so what, as leaders, we develop behaviors, right? It's not habits. It's a
Nope.
different thing. A behavior is a different thing. And I'll go through these relatively quickly, but the very first is define every priority with outcome plus reason plus timing. And it's a small thing that we're working towards. Outcome is a big word. Outcome includes where are we going? What's the destination? What's the worthy ideal is a component of outcome.
Yeah.
Reason incorporates why. Timing incorporates co-creating movement. What are we doing? So when you're defining your priorities, go back to the definition of leadership, but think of it in those terms, as simple as possible. I call it the rule of threes. Don't give me more than 3 things to think of because I won't remember them. Outcome, reason, and timing. And then check for understanding. Most important word in this sentence is ask. Ask, because the heads are going to nod. And when we look at this as leaders, we have a tendency to go, oh yeah. But when was the last time you asked one of your teammates or your manager or your director or your VP or your CEO, what does this mean to you? Tell me what it means to you. What does it mean to you? Not what does it mean to us? What does it mean to you? Reinforce it. What do you get to be, do, or have that matters? If we do this, what do we do? What is this? Which is a component of where the ideal, again, as we're moving forward, right? We're keeping track of it. And then that gives you, if you do those things, if you're thinking about it from that priority, outcome, reason, and timing, and you actually ask, you get to align. So now you start aligning on shared language. And remember that language is more than this thing that Blaine and I are doing. Language is how we interpret, how we show up, how we cross our arms. Are we sitting up with a straight spine? Are we locking eyes? Are we sharing language around the priorities and outcomes? Are we in it? And then revisit it, reinforce it, meaning in every operating cadence. One of the things I love is not just kickoff. For years and years and years, young Doland, black hair, leading multi-million-dollar large software implementations for big kinds of places. One of the things that we implemented early in the process was a reminder of why are we doing this?
Yeah.
In every meeting, because things don't go the way you think they're going to go.
Yep.
So when you have that operating cadence conversation, you're going to hear things that, well, this fell off the rails, or this ship is stuck in the harbor, or blah, blah, blah. Reinforce. What is the meaning behind what we're doing? And
yeah,
I love that last one, when decisions drift, it's not about correcting behavior. And you said this on the last slide, Blaine. It's about meaning. When you see drift, start at meaning.
Yep.
But we have a natural inclination to say, I'm not motivating them enough. Maybe it's the wrong person. They don't know how to do it. They're not smart enough. We have a habit as leaders to start in that bucket. Start in meaning. Shift your paradigm. Start there, and then move there. But go ask and say, where are we with meaning? And go back to that question. What does this mean to you?
What does this mean to you? When I was doing a lot of work with Nokia, the telecommunication company back in the late 90s, when they were just cooking with gas. I mean, they were steamrolling everybody. And I spent about, a little bit more than a decade working with the leadership teams in the organization as they actually scaled. And I cannot think of a single meeting that had more than 3 people in it where there was not a visitation of the 4, and they only had 4 of the 4 core values of the organization. And it was a very deliberate activity around keeping people aligned to the meaning of these values. And what was fascinating to me about that, because I worked all over the world with them, was, you would have meaning about a particular value in, say, in Finland, because one of their values was humble. We behave, with humility.
Yeah.
In Finland, the meaning of that was very granular, and it was very much culturally organized and oriented. You move into a different environment. I did some work with the Russian team. What does humility mean in the Russian cult? And the meaning was very different,
Yes.
but they needed to find a way to align them. So it wasn't about that's a wrong one and that's a right one. It was about, oh, that makes sense to you from that perspective. How do we bring these together? Because we want to, what is the value? What does it mean? What does it mean for the work we're doing?
Such a good statement.
Yeah, and they did that consistently. I mean, for until there was a shift in senior leadership. When Jorma Ollila moved into the chairman role, and they brought another CEO in, things started to get a little wonky, and they started acquiring. I think they acquired Alcatel. Anyway, cultural clashes started. All kinds of stuff. So meaning kind of went out the window.
Oh boy.
So that's kind of how that works. So
and
very interesting.
Yeah.
Why this matters. Strategy is not meaning. Strategy is a roadmap. What makes the roadmap executable? What makes the roadmap executable is meaning. Decision quality improves because interpretation becomes consistent and aligned. That's why this matters. Trust increases because intent is clear and shared. So if we're looking at co-creating coordinated movement, trust becomes crucial because you will have conflict. You will have friction as you move into the unknown. So when trust increases, the way that it increases is because meaning is consistently reinforced. We're doing this because, let's get back on the horse here. That's sort of a thing. Execution stabilizes because teams move from the same understanding. So there's elegance that begins to appear. Execution, becomes elegant. That's what stabilization actually suggests here. We don't have to go back and redo a bunch of stuff.
Right.
And in terms of scaling, growth scales because meaning replaces constant oversight. If you've got to continue to micromanage everything, you become the bottleneck. You are the ceiling by which everybody else gets trapped.
That's right.
So strategy and execution and all of these things that we objectively pay attention to stop being labeled as communication issues. We begin to understand them as interpretation issues, and they're part of an interpretation system. So, the systemic awareness. So you increase your intelligence quotient here by paying attention to the system, knowing what the system's up to, because the system is a meaning generating artifact, phenomena. That's what we're looking at here.
Yeah. Love that. So what do you get? The big win, right? So one of the things that we have a tendency to think about is, this is a lot of good blah, blah, blah meaning, but why does it matter? Let's just talk about meaning.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Big win, right? Most leaders try to control execution. Few control how their teams interpret the work. I'm going to say that again. Most leaders try to control execution. We do that 1,000 different ways, leaders. I'll raise my right hand. I am Doland. I was one of those guys at one point in my life. Few control how their teams interpret the work. That is meaning. Is when meanings are clear. And we've said these things. I'll go quick. Decisions align. Efforts compound. Teams move with minimal distraction, with distracting friction and distraction. And the information tells people what to do. Meaning determines how well they do it. Information tells them what, meaning determines how well. But if you take anything away from the slide, take the first two sentences. Most leaders try to control execution. We are wired for that. We are leaders because we have an outcome we're responsible for, either up, down, left, or right. There's inbound pressures for all of that. It's the few that stop, that understand meaning, to help controls how their team interprets the work, which, by the way, degasses controlling execution.
Yep.
It vents that gas. Not that, I don't want to talk about venting gas, but there you go.
Okay. So kind of wrapping and put a bow around this thing here.
There you go.
Just kind of reflect on this here. where, these are questions for you to, kind of consider, consider your organization, your team or your company, even, your own position. Where are people executing correctly, but based on the wrong meaning? So they're actually, I mean, observably, they're doing what seems to be needed, but it's there's a little, it's kind of like, okay, something didn't quite mesh here.
Right.
So what's the meaning dynamic that's in play here? And it can be very subtle. It can be really subtle. They may be going through the motions, but their heart isn't in it. That's one way to think about it. They're going through the motions, but their heart isn't in it, which is a great definition of emotional disengagement.
Yeah.
Now, what's interesting here, Gallup, and we've talked about this before on the show, but yeah, Gallup does annually an employee engagement survey. They've been doing it for at least 2 decades, probably, well, actually more. I think they started it back in the late '90s or in the mid
Yeah.
'90s. For the first time in the history of this thing, 2 consecutive years, employee engagement scores have decreased. Year over year, there will always be some bump somewhere around the line. Now, what we're seeing is a continual decrease. And it's not surprising because when we think about the introduction of AI, the conversations that go on, the disruptions in the global markets, and I mean, just all kinds of stuff here, people are recalibrating. What does it mean to be, number one, an employee? Who am I? Where do I belong? They're recalibrating just kind of how they show up to work because loyalty no longer seems to be valued. We're entering a phase here. I just saw something in Fast Company about this. Where we're entering a phase of massive layoffs coming. Yeah. So people are afraid. So fear, where did that fear come from? It's generated out of meaning.
Mhm.
So they may be executing. They may be going through the motions. If you don't know what the meaning is, and if they've divorced themselves from what it is intended to be, you're going to have a problem. Where are you assuming alignment without verifying the interpretations? That's kind of another way of saying that same bullet point, that previous bullet point.
Mhm.
And then when we start looking at prioritization, what priorities right now have multiple meanings across your team? So yeah, this shows up. It's interesting how this shows. We've got to have a 10% reduction in costs. Okay, what does that mean across the organization? Does that mean slice the headcount? Does that mean, what does it mean? Yeah. And that will guide behavior. Not only guide it, it will dictate behavior.
Yeah.
And then the final piece here is, where's your team guessing instead of actually validating what it is that they're supposed to be aligning with into?
Yeah.
So these are just some reflective points. There's not a right answer to any one of these four. But the invitation here is to just notice, to step back, take a breath, create some white space, and go, I wonder what's there.
Yeah. I love that. There's not a right or wrong. It is to your point. It is to inspire curiosity.
Thank you. Well said. Yeah.
Oh,
You want to get curious.
Thank you. I got one right. That doesn't happen very often.
So, it happens more often than you think.
But it is that.
I love of wisdom.
Yeah, there you go. But I love that, from the reflection perspective and the kind of the explanation that you applied to it. Leaders, it's that, and we encourage you. Again, I'll do a tail end encouragement. The tail end encouragement is, look, reach out to us. Email us, drop us a note. We're happy to have a conversation with you about the meaning of these things. It doesn't mean you're going to buy something. Just send a note. We're happy to have a chat with you. Yep. The important thing is that as an executive, and we talk about this each week when we do the power of you, there is a moment where to be reflective is to be effective. And it's a stupid saying. And I forget who taught me that saying many, many years ago, but to be reflective is to be effective. When we reflect, we learn. In the Unix world, back in the old days, Unix was an operating system, by the way, for you people who don't know what that was. There was an old adage I used to teach as an engineer, which is nobody learns anything by working on things that work. To be reflective is to be effective. And it gives you that opportunity. And pick these and throw these into ChatGPT and say, hey, give me 15 different variations on these questions and see what comes back.
So here's kind of a summary.
Isn't that
Meaning
beautiful?
is, that is, this was a clean, thank you. Hats off, my designer friend.
I thought it was beautiful.
I thought it's gorgeous. It's elegant, and elegant is beautiful.
I'm fishing for comments. I got 1 hour compliments. I got 1 so far.
This is genius. This
I'm
is
going
really
all right. Now we're way over where we should be. Anyway, you talk. Go ahead.
Oh, I'll take the left side. You take the right side.
Go ahead.
Meaning is always interpreted. It is never assigned. You can't tell somebody why something is meaningful. You can give them the business case. You can give them, from your perspective, what it lines up and how it lines up for you, but you can't tell them why it's meaningful to them. It's an interpretation. So, and I'll just bring this thing up full so you can take a screenshot of this, and I'll drop this off. Yeah, there we go. We'll hide that. Meaning is how people make sense of what they're being asked to do. Pure and simple. Yeah, it's a bridge between, and we mentioned this earlier. Meaning is the bridge between information and action. You don't get action just by giving people information. Behavior is linked to meaning. Meaning shapes how people prioritize, decide, and move.
Yeah.
And it answers, when you've got meaning in place here, and it's always in place in some way, shape, or form, meaning answers the questions: what matters, why it matters, and what do I do about it?
Yeah. And then on the right side, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, that was it.
All right, go cool. Then I'll because I can't see you that way. I don't know. I didn't know if you took a breath there or not. Meaning determines execution. Interpretation is the real operating system. Remember, we talk about interpretation because of the fact that a business is merely a collection of people in a relationship to accomplish a common outcome. How we interpret things is distinctly unique. We are all different beings. Thank goodness. Thank goodness. So when we think of that, when we're defining meaning for the sake of what outcome, what are we doing this for? Remember, for the sake of what, FTSOW, is the worthy ideal. And the worthy ideal is intrinsic, what inspires us, what moves us towards that outcome. And then test interpretation. Ask the question, what does this mean to you? I will challenge you leaders to ask that question and send a comment back and let us know what happened with that result. Yeah, I bet you a dollar bill, an American dollar bill, you'll learn something you didn't know before you ask that question. And then align your meeting. Why does this priority matter now? It's very important. Now is a key word. And create shared meaning. Why does this matter? And the last very thing is reset meaning. Where did this hit the wall? When you get to that point, don't fix. Remember we talked about our first thing is to jump in to execute. Reestablish understanding. Make sure we're clear on the meaning side. So this is a thing. Go screenshot this, put it on your screensaver, put it on your desk. Screensavers used to be something on the computer, by the way. And then that's something that you can put to use and take this with you. And it's a 2-column summary of what we just spent 48 minutes talking about. There you go.
So that's what we're looking at here. Schedule a chat. I mean, if this has got any curiosity buttons pushed for you, curiosity killed the cat, satisfaction brought it back, sort of a deal here. Yeah.
Ping us. Yeah. I've heard that.
An old grandmother saying. Dolan at DolandWhite.com or Blaine at AvatarResources.com. We're very, very happy to have a conversation, brief 20-minute or so conversation. Just what might be up for you around this. You can get copies, or not get copies. You can view all of this at let me see here. Yeah, here we go. Got that.
You got a Sharon for that?
There we go. Sharon for that one. There it is, the bottom. leader.blainebartlett.com/power review.
Yeah.
And all 50 plus of these are available to you there. In addition, the PDF of all of these programs are made available. So you got something that you can download as a hard copy. The encouragement, and this is the reason we want to invite you to explore the Power of You site, is those of you that have teams that you work with, take one of these videos, drop it into a team meeting, and then have a conversation with them about it. And we are exploring all kinds of stuff, decision making, Edward Deming's 13 points of quality as it applies to leadership.
Right.
Yeah, conflict. I mean, just all kinds of different topical areas that leaders need to pay attention to and have some awareness about. All of this is there. So absolutely feel free to poke around and share it with your teams. Share it with your teams.
Do it.
So we'll just kind of drop this and say thank you all for hanging in there with us this week. It's not about the strategy. It's about the meaning.
That's right.
You want to work with that.
Exactly.
So,
Dr. Bartlett?
Dr. White? Every Thursday we get together here. So the time varies a little bit. It's usually right around noon, but there'll be something in either in the LinkedIn and Facebook sites that kind of gives you a heads up the day before or the day of about where we're at and when it's scheduled to launch. So we'll see you next week.
See you then. Thanks.
Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching.